Hello, and welcome to Rice and Beans. So sorry I'm late. Been working on a new bass solo for my show tonight. And my name's Jeff Van Driel, and I'm here to talk to you about my new favorite food, rice and beans. Now you see, I met this girl about a week ago at a Ted Leo show. I haven't stopped wearing this shirt or thinking about her ever since. We even got matching tattoos. State of Wisconsin right here. She's a great gal, and later this week, I'm cooking dinner for her. The only problem is, she's a vegetarian. And even though I told her I'm a vegetarian, well, I don't know much about vegetarian cooking at all. But after looking at the internet for about an hour or so, I think I know what it truly means. The most important thing for me, staying full. I'm in a band. I play the bass. We play late night shows, and getting full, staying full, that's my #1 priority. And that's where rice and beans hop aboard. They're both super cheap and easy to make, and most vegetarians love them. Today I'm going to show you guys how to prepare dried beans. It's really easy, not difficult at all. I'm also going to show you how to make brown and wild rice on the stovetop. Now I know a lot of people today have these fancy rice cooking machines, but we can't all afford them. I'm saving up for a base amp. Plus, a stovetop is a pretty easy way. But before we get started, why don't we take a look at what makes rice and beans a healthy vegetarian dish? The production team here caught up with Nicole Fasoulis, a registered dietitian here in Milwaukee, to talk about rice and beans and why they're good for me.
Certified personal trainer and owner of Way of Life Nutrition and Fitness. Rice provides a lot of B vitamins in particular. Because it is a whole grain, it does have some fiber to it, and it also does have some protein to it, which is beneficial of whole grains in general because that slows the release of energy into the bloodstream. Beans have a lot of nutritional benefits. They do provide a lot of protein. They're extremely high fiber. In fact, the majority of the carbohydrate content that they supply is predominantly fiber, which means that it doesn't get absorbed into the system. They do have a lot of magnesium, a lot of potassium, and once again, they're very high in B vitamins as well as iron. As far as digestion is concerned with beans, beans have two types of fiber to it. They're the highest in insoluble fiber, and then they also have soluble fiber to it. And so that helps to keep us regular, you could say that, but it also helps to feed the good flora in our digestive tract. So like a lot of people are taking probiotics these days for that exact reason. But if we actually consume enough fiber in our diet, predominantly from like a product like beans, our bodies have that ability to create its own flora in and of itself. And so because of that component to it, it does aid in reduction of like colon cancer and the like.
I think I get it. After hearing what a registered dietitian had to say and staring at this poster of the human digestive system, everything's becoming clear to me. Now this is a bag of dried pinto beans. I didn't even know these existed until I looked on the internet. I thought all beans came from a can. But these are even cheaper than the canned beans, and you can buy them in larger quantities. This is the biggest bag I can find at my grocery store. The only problem with dried beans, you can't eat them right out of the bag like you can with the can. You have to prepare them first. It's really easy, and I'll show you how right now. The first part is soaking the beans. If your eyes aren't all clouded over like my Grandma Jane's, you can see that these beans, they're very small and very hard. Not easy to chew at all. Not like normal beans, which are soft and easy to chew. These are like rocks. What we need to do is process the starches. And to do that, we soak them in water from anywhere from 6 to 12 hours. This will also help reduce the amount of gas these beans will create in our intestines, especially the lower ones, if you catch my drift. I find the longer you soak the beans, the more tender they are at the end of the process. Just make sure you don't leave your beans soaking any longer than 24 hours. It's a mess. I'm putting these beans in a black crock. I'm going to fill it with water. I'm going to fill it with water up to 2.5 inches over the beans. Then all I have to do is cover the beans and set them aside. After 8 hours, they will look a little bit like this. See how they've become softer? They've almost tripled in size. But they aren't done yet. They're still pretty tough when you chew them. And they don't taste very good either. What we need to do is simmer our beans on the stove for at least an hour. I have some water boiling over here on the stove, and we'll just transfer our soaked beans right in. Now this is also a good opportunity to add a little flavor to the beans. I'm going to add 2 bay leaves, just for a mild herbal flavor and a mild aroma. All you got to do is remember to take them out when they're done cooking. They don't taste very good. Now I'm going to let these beans cook for a bit, and I'm going to start preparing everything I need for the rice. While I get that together, I have a video my good friend Luke made that will help me cook some great vegetarian dishes featuring my friend the bean for my upcoming date. Let's take a look.
My name is Luke, and I'm going to show you how to make a couple delicious recipes that incorporate beans and are 100% vegetarian. First, we're going to make a bean and mushroom pate, and we're going to use these following ingredients. Here we have some whole wheat bread that we will make into breadcrumbs. Here we have shiitake mushrooms and portobello mushrooms, and then red kidney beans and a red pepper that I'll show you how to roast. We have a white onion, garlic, fresh rosemary, dried thyme, salt, and pepper. First, we're going to make breadcrumbs, and we'll do that by placing them on a rack in the oven at 350 degrees to dry them out. You want the bread to be nice and dry by the time you take it out. Now we're going to roast a red pepper. I like a red pepper because it's got a nice, zesty, bold taste. You can roast your red peppers at home. I'm going to show you how to do it right now. You can roast your red pepper a couple different ways. You can roast it under the broiler, or if you have a gas stove, you can do it on the stovetop. I prefer the stovetop. I feel like I have a little bit more control over it. And what you want to do is get the flesh of it nice and black. So leave it on there for a bit and turn it as you need to. This side is done perfectly. So we'll just turn that a little bit and we'll get the other side. This side is all done, so we'll put it on its third and final side. This pepper is roasted on all sides, so this is ready to be put under some cold water, and we'll get all this black skin off of it. Now to finish off our pepper, we will take it off our burner, and you may want to let it cool a little bit, but that's okay. We'll put it in our cold water bath and remove all of the charred skin off of it. This pepper is going to taste really great. It's going to have a smoky flavor to it, and it's going to have a little bit of a punch that a raw red pepper just doesn't have. So now that we've got all the skin removed, we will remove our water bath and we'll cut this up to put into our pate. All right, to prepare our pepper, just open it up and make sure there's not a lot of hot water in it when you do this, or you might get burned. And then take off the top here just like you would as if you were cleaning a normal pepper. Get rid of all the seeds and everything as much as you can. And then I like to chop them with the inside facing down. It's just a little bit easier. And then make some nice thin strips. You can really smell the pepper popping when you start cutting into it. It smells great. So now we've got all these strips, we can just clump them together, give them a little turn, and we'll dice them up. This recipe calls for 1 pepper, but if you really like peppers, feel free to put more in, or any other ingredients that you have around the house. These are nice and dry and ready to go. Now we'll make our breadcrumbs, and we'll do that by putting our bread into the food processor and dicing it up till it's nice and crumbly, and then we'll set it aside to add to our pate. I recommend putting in not too much bread so you don't overload your processor. This one's small, so I'm gonna probably do it 1 piece at a time. From our 6 pieces of bread, we yielded 1.5 cups of breadcrumbs. We only need 1 cup for our recipe, so we'll have a little extra. And that's good, because if our pate has a little bit too much liquid, we can add more breadcrumbs and thicken it up. Now that we have all of our ingredients prepared, we are going to cook a few of them on the stovetop. We're going to cook the mushrooms, the onions, and the garlic to soften them up so that they'll make a nice texture for our pate. We'll start the cooking process by adding a tablespoon of broth and then a tablespoon of beer. You can use all broth or all beer. This is how we're going to cook it tonight. And I recommend starting this on a low heat so you don't start cooking everything right away. Shiitake mushrooms, portobello mushrooms, and I'm going to keep a few of these to put on top of our loaf. So there we go. And lastly, our garlic. And then mix everything up really nice so all the flavors kind of melange together. I don't have a lid that is large enough to cover this up, so I'm going to use another pan and place it on top. And this will act as a good lid. So just keep an eye on this and stir it every once in a while. You don't want it to cook, like I keep saying. So just keep mixing it up, and then once the onions get clear, then we'll be done. You'll know everything's done when the onions are nice and clear and the mushrooms are nice and soft. You can give them a little press, and if they just kind of collapse and break apart, when you push down on them, they're all ready to go. Now that we have our raw ingredients cooked, we'll add everything into our blender and we'll blend everything together until it's a nice smooth texture, and then we'll take it out and add all of the rest of the ingredients. Let's start mixing everything together. We'll start by putting our mixture of our mushrooms and onions into the bowl, and the beans. We've got everything out of here, and we'll start by adding our red peppers. We'll add our peppers, then our thyme, and that was 1 tablespoon of thyme, and about 1.5 tablespoons of rosemary. We'll add a little bit of salt. We can always add more. And just a little bit of pepper. And then after I add the breadcrumbs, I do like to add a little bit more salt, just because you add a bunch of substance in there. And we will also be adding an egg to act as a binder. And if you do want to make this a completely vegan dish, you can substitute the egg for olive oil, and that will also act as a very nice binder. If you don't have breadcrumbs, you could try using oatmeal or crushed crackers. Something that will soak up moisture is what we're looking for. All right, this is mixed together really well, and it's time to pan this up. We have our slightly greased cooking dish. I chose the loaf style cooking dish. It'll look really nice when we get it out of the pan to serve it. So we'll just spoon this in here, and we'll smooth out the top, and then we'll put some nice little garnish on the top of it before we put it in the oven. Our pate is all panned up and ready to go into our oven, at 350 degrees for 45 minutes to 1 hour. And we'll know that it's all done when it's got a nice brown crust on the top.
I can honestly say that I would attempt to eat that bean pate. It looks even better than I thought it would, especially coming from Luke. My beans are over here on the stove simmering, and I'm stirring them every now and then. The thing is, you don't want to stir them too much. You don't need to hover it over it, just every once in a while. My rice is all ready for the stove. I have 1 cup of uncooked fancy blend brown wild rice. I also have 2.5 cups of water that I've already put in my pan. Also a little salt, and we'll be good to go. Give it a little stir. Now the wild rice will cook a little longer than most white rices, so have a little extra water on hand, just in case I need a little more. I chose the wild rice blend because I do want to impress my girl, and everyone knows a little wilder is a little better. When I was in the store, I didn't even know that there were anything other but white rice, but I guess spice it up a little bit. We just need to let our water get hot on the stove. We don't want it to get boiling. We just want to let it sit for a couple minutes, and once it comes to a boil, we'll reduce the heat and let's watch Luke. He's got a bean venture going. We'll get back to him.
We have our mushroom and bean pate cooking in the oven. That'll take about an hour. So in the meantime, I'll show you how to make a real simple bean salad. It has very few ingredients, but it tastes delicious, and you can serve it with just about anything. Let's get started. This recipe is really simple. All we're going to do is mix everything together, but we will have to chop up our green onions, cilantro, and garlic. So let's get started on that. Cut them in about 1/4-inch sections so that you get a lot of them, and they'll mix up really nice into the rest of the ingredients. And for the garlic, I'm going to dice this up really small. So I'll cut the length of it and then turn it sideways and cut it the other way so we get nice little diced pieces. And these will mix really well into the recipe, and they'll soak up the vinegar, and they'll provide a lot of flavor on their own as well. All right, we'll chop up the cilantro, and when I am chopping cilantro, I like to fold it up like this and then just get to cutting it. And I fold it up so that you can cut a lot of it at once rather than cutting a bunch of little leaves and stems over and over again. We have all of our ingredients prepared. We have our beans and our corns, our green onions, our garlic, and our cilantro ready to go. So we'll start putting them into the dish. We have our beans in the bowl, so now I'll add my corn and our corn with peppers, a red wine vinegar. I like to dump this all over everything. The beans will soak up a lot of this vinegar, and it's going to taste delicious. And our olive oil. The olive oil will neutralize the acidity of the red wine vinegar and also complement it very well. We'll add our green onions, garlic, and cilantro now. And I like to use these flexible cutting boards because you can use them real easily to get all of your ingredients into your bowls. We'll add a little bit of salt now. You can always add more later. And a little bit of pepper as well. Maybe about half a teaspoon. And then while you're mixing this, try to fold it over rather than stir it so you don't smash the beans. And what I mean by that is just sort of go to the bottom of the pan and just fold everything up to the top. And this will keep the beans intact. It'll also blend everything really nicely together so that everything gets to absorb the juices and all the flavors really pop out of this bean salad. Our salad is all done, so we'll put this in the refrigerator for about half an hour to an hour, and all the flavors will absorb into each other real nicely, and this will be delicious when we bring it back out. All right, our pate has been in the oven for 50 minutes. We just took it out and it looks amazing and it smells great. We're gonna let this cool for a little bit and then we'll slice it up and serve it. Our mushroom and bean pate has cooled and our bean salad has been in the refrigerator for about 45 minutes. So let's plate everything up and enjoy. We have our mushroom and bean pate on a bed of lettuce. We have our bean salad and we're also serving this with toasted wheat bread. We're all finished and we have our 2 delicious 100% vegetarian dishes that celebrate beans. Back to you, Jeff.
Wow, Luke, that looks great. I'm really surprised at your dishes. I really think I could use that for a picnic, or maybe just a lunch date. I like to take my girl out on fancy dates, and I think beans and rice are just what get my girls going. Right now, I have my beans simmering, and my rice is covered, and we have it at a slow boil. So we'll stir it once and reduce the heat. Smells great. Now we'll need this rice to cook for about 40 to 50 minutes. While you're waiting, you can take care of whatever errands you need to, run off, go to the store, do what needs to be done. When it's done, it should be easily stirred with a fork. And now I have some rice here that I prepared earlier. I can show you. Looks great. I'm gonna try a little bit. That's pretty good. Notice how you can see every kernel of the rice. It's not all mushed together. That's how you know it's good. And you'll know when your beans are done when they're nice and tender. If you like them a little firmer, feel free to simmer them for a little less time. Some beans you can simmer for about 2 hours. I have some here. I have simmered for an hour and a half. They look delicious. Just my liking. Not too soft, not too hard. And look at the time. I gotta go to band practice. We have a show tonight. There's gonna be lots of people there. I hope you guys learned a lot from watching my show. And I hope you had a good time. Let me chew a little bit. And I'll say adios from Rice and Beans. Goodbye, everybody.